Child development is a fascinating field, and I think one of the challenges that we've had over the years is to not make it seem so complicated. I think people in the field like to use a lot of terminology, making some of these concepts seem complicated for both practitioners and families, and most importantly, policymakers. So over the last few years, there's been quite an advance in trying to translate some of this information into ways that make it much more manageable and understandable both for policy and for families that are raising children in the early and middle and adolescent years. So just basically maybe starting with a definition of child development that we've tried to develop as a little bit simpler. Development is defined as an increase in complexity or change from simple to more complex and detailed. But it's a very orderly process, and children all over the world go through a similar process and a similar pattern and stages of development. It's along a continuous path in which a child acquires more refined knowledge, behaviors, and skills. And the sequence or pattern of this change is basically the same for all children all over the world. But of course, every child is unique and different. And this occurs partially because the factors that influence the child's development along this continuous pathway vary from setting to setting, from family to family, and also the child's own set of strengths and challenges. We often find that in the area of child development, I think looking at it from a medical perspective, that oftentimes it's been to look at where are children failing, where are they falling off the developmental pathway. But one of the key principles of our work is to actually suggest that almost all children are normal, that the path of development is full of consistency, but also variation. And one of the ways that we look at that is through the different developmental domains. But just before I go into some of the developmental domains, just to summarize a few key of the characteristics of normal or typical development for children. It is an integrated process by which children change in an orderly fashion in terms of size, neurological structure, and behavioral complexity. But it's also, we talk a lot about building blocks of child development. So it's a cumulative or building block process where each new aspect of growth and development builds on earlier changes. So that's particularly important when we're trying to design programs, is to understand where a child is in that particular process. Thus, each accomplishment is necessary to the next level of skills. It's a continuous process, and this is something we talk about all the time in child development. It's a give and take. It's not a one-way process of development, but it consists of reciprocal exchanges between the child and the people and the places and the things in the child's environment. And each changes the other in unique ways. So it's not only the child that's developing through this process, but it's the family, it's the parents and the systems and around the child that develops as well. So I think those of us in child development feel that this is an incredibly exciting field to be in, because we have the privilege of watching these changes as they unfold and studying the pieces of them and what we can do to enhance that process.